Hello there everyone and welcome back. I think I'm gonna play a little bit more with this massive claw type of fleet, for I like the theme of it, even if it may not be very practical, with my own AI or move orders kind of conflicting with each other, just due to the sheer proximity that they have to get sometimes with their allied ships. It makes it incredibly problematic. In all honesty, I was hoping to maybe experiment or jump over to a bioplasma type of fleet, although it has been nerfed a bit, and if I want to make use of this fleet, I would have to sacrifice two of my frigates, which, honestly, probably hurts this fleet quite significantly, mainly because none of these light cruisers or even these regular cruisers even have bioplasma for their prow weaponry. There is a possibility of maybe a broadside version to make it have use. It's just going to make it really complicated and a lot more awkward. So, I'm going to have to think more if I really want to commit to jumping over to this fleet next. Since the 3 hive ships, or at least having the hive ships, is what makes this fleet good. Since tracking senses will also increase the range of these lances, on top of the upgrade that allows at least the flagship to shoot at 1300 units, or 13,000 units rather. It makes it really damn useful, especially when it ignores shields, as well as the hull field on top of that. And although it is just as experimental as maybe me playing with the massive claws, since I only did like maybe 3 or 4 matches with them on a stream or something, I will think on it more. But for now, let's play around with more claws and just devouring fleets whole, if that's at all possible. Alright, more Imperial Navy, interestingly enough. Inquisitor Cybrex it is, huh? Although, let's see. I don't recognize the opponent, so anything is possible here for what kind of encounter or fight we're going to be dealing with. But any opportunity to fight Imperial Navy is always a fun one with the Tyranids, since they are kind of the slower type of fleets, and they don't have mega cannons on the prow to really be a big threat. Because in all seriousness, if I can engage them or latch onto their prow, it's almost impossible for them to dislodge my ships without actually killing them straight up. And since I'm immune to ramming damage and too close for torpedoes, they're going to have a hard time if I can connect. That's going to be the tricky part though, since it relies heavily on me not being revealed, part of it as well. Although, let's try and segment my fleet a little bit more. I think might be a good idea. Since having them all come in at once, at least from what we learned from the last episode, is probably a terrible idea. Also, I need to get my fleet organized properly, because apparently the drone is not part of the actual killing. It's mostly just to at least give me something as a backup plan, or at least alleviate a little of me having to lose through the objective. So let's get this started. The Devourers are going to be nice because they're going to come in pretty late just because of their slower speed. And let's just get this going. We'll work on spraying out a little more effectively over time, because I think that's important. Spraying out, just not too drastically. And where is the beacon? Alright, so we know where the flagship is, and conveniently it's just going to reveal my drone. Isn't a big deal there, but maybe my main problem is with this fleet is not having the patience probably required, because I need to make sure I have these rushes available, ideally for getting in point blank range, at the very least to do the shield damage on them if I'm able to engage an awkward angle. And of course it's really great for chasing and pursuing them when they eventually panic and try to run away. But so far, I can rest easy knowing this beacon's going to do very little against me. It's just, are there any fighters I need to be worried about? Hell, I didn't even pay attention. The flagship's here, so we know there's another cruiser of some kind, so maybe they're battleships? Again, I did a terrible job actually looking for how quickly they were grabbing the objective. And I want this spore field to help a little bit, at least make them steer around it maybe a bit. Because I did check this before doing my recording today, that this shoots at the same speed as a torpedo. So if I'm good about leading it, if for no other reason than to kind of serve as a very minor area denial, then that could be good for setting up for an engagement, especially around this gas cloud, which is a possibility. And also, I did not pay attention to silent rushes, and honestly, I would like to try to avoid exploiting that. It would be good to know ahead of time if that's actually a thing or not for this match, though. Since it will help for how it plays out later on. Okay, so I am gonna get revealed. There is like a... Okay, so a dictator and a bunch... Actually, I could just hold position. Yeah, chameleon skin is great in this exchange, and that will force him to move some. Yes, fire at me. The Krakens are not afraid of you. I just gotta be mindful when they recall, though. It's just slowly creeping up. Their lack of vision is going to be the burden end of them. And hell, I don't even need to scanner pulse, because after all, I'm melee range for crying out loud. And this rush is great, because it allows me to avoid the first bit of salvo from the weaponry. Although that wasn't Emperor, was it? Yep. So the bombers are gonna suck. So yeah, if you just want to make this easy for me, go ahead. And that is the perfect clamp I want. Also, speaking of which, let's remember to set our attack angle too. So that cruiser is basically dead. I think that's going to be safe to assume. It's already lost like half its health after all. Krakens are going to slow these things down really well. So yeah, this is pretty simple. My opponent thought they were safe in the gas cloud. And for crying out loud, light cruisers and a couple of Krakens are demolishing them right now. This is how it should have played out, arguably, against my previous opponent. And Mike Warp Jump, that's not scary. It is the flagship, though, so let's have our fun with it. Let's have a lot of fun with this, because you know what this thing just walked into. And this spore field is going to seal that deal quite a bit. Although, here's where AI starts to bug out on me a bit. And now I'm taking ramming damage on my flagship because of that. Oh well. We'll just deal with ramming this other thing, and Bioplasma is going to contribute a little bit too. Ooh, thankfully I did not take the ramming damage there. That was scary because of the awkward angle I was at. Mutiny there. Sadly, I rammed my own Kraken, which thankfully did survive, I think. It's hard to tell because of the health bars, if I were to be serious. Oh well. This is nice and simple. And a Kraken's gonna deal with our light cruiser. Latch on, my little friend. Good old Stimpy, he never fails me. And for those wondering who the hell Stimpy is, I have like a Tyranid Alpha Warrior, I think, I assembled. Sadly did not paint, but I decided to name him Stimpy, and he's been important for my XCOM games. If you ever watch my XCOM videos, you know what I mean. And I think there was one stream where he single-handedly foiled an Eldar Corsair of flanking maneuver. These Krakens can be fun, and this should... If anything, this is kind of a perfect example with how my previous loss against the Imperial Navy last episode should have played out. And good God, sure, my opponent made it easy for me to get on them since they thought they were safe in a gas cloud. Which, in all honesty, I don't blame them. You should try and utilize cover, but sadly, I was not utilizing Pyras or anything of range that really mattered. And my opponent did not know what they were up against. And they had the micro warp jump, so they had all the skills unlocked, so it really was just experience where that came down. Although, the bombers are still annoying, because they are really good at dealing with my Krakens. since they don't have any point defense to kind of protect them. Never mind the fact I have absolutely no fighters to kind of fight them even in close range, which they would be pretty good at the 9 if I had at least 2 fighter squadron type of Tyranid ship. Although honestly, if I really needed a carrier ship, I could swap out one of these. I don't quite have the points for it, so the negative, the downside there. So maybe, if fighters are really a problem for me, then I can swap this around a tiny bit. Since what this trades off my bioplasma, which in all honesty synergizes really well with the claws because I ignore the shields that way. If only I had swapped out the pyre acid, that would probably be the best case situation for me. But as it stands, it's not really necessary, I suppose. Or at least, it's only the bombers I worry about. Oh boy, the Imperial Navy continued to show up there and be nice little fodder for my hungry Tyranids. Although, the same strategy is going to apply, I suppose. If I can get on their prow, in theory that should be amazing for me. Although the last match, my opponent was almost entirely carrier ships and didn't really have a lot of torpedoes, so latching onto their prow isn't that big of a deal for me, hell. I honestly can't remember if the massive claws ignore armor. I assume they ignore armor, because if they have the 83 armor on the prow, then I kind of want to hit their side for the additional damage. Which ignores armor, okay, that's what I was curious about. Not that it matters, I think I still want to latch onto the prow just to minimize the amount of damage and make it that much more difficult for them to get away from me. Because if they boost away, they are almost quite literally pushing me along with them there. Unless they want to burn a lot of their combustion gauge to do a high energy turn, that might be the exception. Also, let's keep in mind, did I just do it again? Yes, I did. Dang drone is in the group that I don't want it to be in. So let's just try spraying this out a little bit. And hell, this should be with the main group, the one in the center. At least have its 3 Krakens. Everything else can be spread out a tiny bit. And ideally, if I can get on them while they're slowed by the Kraken's spore cloud, then I should be in good shape, hopefully. Where's my third one? There we go. Everything's looking good. Probably not as spread as it could be, though. In this case, we're looking at just 5 cruisers. It could be Grand Cruisers, possibly. And I have no fighters, nor do I really want to invest in fighters anyway. Because it kind of gives away my position if I were to use them for detection, and are incredibly irrelevant for at least how I do damage. Otherwise, the main strategy is always the same. Watch for fighters, watch for anything that could detect me, and make this a little more complicated than it probably would be. And actually, I could start rushing forward, but maybe I don't want to do that. Since after all, I have no idea if my opponent's even listening for audio cues, but the drone's perfect for testing that. Since it's in a very obscured area, it's not really going to contribute until later on. And yeah, it helps it get along faster too, especially with how obscure its positioning is. And I think I will have the Krakens try and grab a couple of points too. At least just the one. It serves as a bit of a direction for them to go. It's still a question of how many frigates do I need to be worried about. I can't remember. Did I set priority? Well, my opponent's hiding in the gas cloud, going in an odd direction, so I don't know what to make of that, truth be told. But let's start pursuing them some. Because I don't want too many frigates to grab objectives, so maybe we switch our role a bit here. This Kraken can grab this point and everything else. Try to get a nice little surround on these things. And wait until we're ready to pounce. Still going to be a little bit of time. I don't want to rush too much because I'm pretty certain my opponent would hear me, just because of how close I am to their fleet. It's very likely they'll just hear it due to proximity. And again, it's like I said, I kind of want to wait and at least withhold using my rush as much as possible, just so I can pursue them, I suppose. So that's an exorcist there, I think. So fighters are coming out. They have a lot of lances, and they even have Nova cannons. Am I even looking at that right? Yeah, they have Nova cannons, so this is pretty good for me, arguably. Now, everything get into melee range, because I kind of forgot about that, even though it probably doesn't really do a whole lot. Alright. So everything get in there, start rushing. And I do have additional ramming potential. But again, they're being a little bit stubborn, needless to say. Alright, everything get in there. Because now this is a good angle. It's just going to be a bit of an awkward angle with that said. Bioplasma's hitting. We got more boarding. Yeah, they're just going to run. So just pursue them and watch them burn their reserves. This is part of the reason why it pays to withhold the rushing. They do have bombers, but I have shields regenerating right now. And I do have Devourers kind of AWOL right now too. And they really do not like my flagship, do they now? Who'd have thought? Who would have thought that they want to kill the flagship? Now I gotta wait. Save the Void Lurker in case of Nova cannons. And meanwhile... Oh, does the Nova cannon still fire? Because I destroyed the ship that was shooting at me right now. I think I did. This could potentially be a very terrifying fleet, though. If they were able to reveal me ahead of time, and I carelessly use my rush ability. Thankfully, that's not a problem at all. Because our friend here is pretty dead. This one Kraken should finish it off really nicely. No. Oh, Mutiny, that's perfect. Actually, let's pursue this, although that was more of a rush for mobility's sake and not really for ramming. So I rushed that a little carelessly. Alright, this looks over already. It's a nice convenience when my opponent refuses to use actual detection, since they had a good amount of fighters for that role after all. And that terrified me, because I thought it was a Nova Cannon. Don't ask me how it would have been a Nova Cannon, they have no Nova Cannons left at this point. But there's the proximity being a pain again. A little annoying, but I think we're fine-tuning it a bit. Just from me having my attacks come kind of in waves a little bit. And just withholding the rush to kind of serve as a bit of an override slightly too. That's probably the main value of rush if I were to be serious. If my fleet is being stubborn, I can rush to either force a ram or just spread them out a bit. If the positioning could be better.
You have accumulated 50% of strategic.
By now, I think it's safe to say we had our fun munching on a bunch of Imperial Navy fleets. So let's see if we get some more diversity or not. Okay, we finally get ourselves something a little bit different. Tau Protector Fleet. So the big question, of course, comes down to, are we dealing with the 6 cruiser fleet? Because seeker missiles can be terrifying. I have the rush to kind of dodge them relatively well, but ideally, I would like to use the rush for when I'm actually engaging the Tau fleet. And if they have custodians or anything like that, then I might have to deal with a large number of frigates, or at least larger than normal. Alright, so let's get the drone in position. Get everything else. I'm just wondering, Tau have like the most mobile ships in the game, so long as they have the combustion gauge available to them. So they can turn around like ridiculously fast, and they are also one of the only factions that have really good prow weaponry. So, as much as I would like to kind of latch onto the prow, it means I'm going to take a ridiculous amount of damage outside of the Krakens with the health regeneration and their A3 armor. So, I'm curious how I want to approach this. Because they have the same kind of speed. Well, I take that back. They do sort of have the same speed as the Imperial Navy, but if they're utilizing the upgrade to increase their speed and turning radius, that changes a tiny bit. Otherwise, let's get deployed, I guess. Try to, anyway. Don't know what else to really say aside for hope I can avoid detection. That's probably my top priority. Avoid detection so I don't have to worry about bombers and all that too terribly much. And what do I see here? Well, 7 ships, which might be a good sign. Unless one of them happens to be a frigate, which... At least one of them is a frigate. So this could still very well be a 6-cruiser type of fleet. Just with maybe a less experienced opponent, just because the frigate's not salt running right now. And killing that flagship is going to be pretty important too. And I want to... Well, if anything, if the frigates get revealed, that's not terrible, but I gotta watch for fighters too. And where are you going? You're just basically going straight into the middle of the field, if I were to be honest. So I kind of want to avoid that as much as possible, and dang it, Kraken was supposed to grab the objective.
The enemy has seized a
Turn, evade, and hopefully... Well, they are turning to where I'm kind of giving away I have something over there. Which may not be terrible yet. Also, again, gotta watch for these dang fighters. Okay, so it's going all the way to the objective. That's not terrible for me. It means I should effectively dodge this. And again, the strategy is to overwhelm my opponent by hopefully jumping their entire fleet at once. And with how spread I am, that's going to be important. And that was kind of a rush I didn't want to do. Okay, nothing's detected. Not yet. I'm just thankful that the fighters are not being launched. That's 6 fighter squadrons that can cover an incredibly wide berth. And keep an eye out for them, at least know... Alright, and knowing when they come out is important. Thankfully, they only got frigates, which is fine. And I can take the damage incredibly well.
You have seized a strategic area.
Let's try and rush over there. And at least put the pressure on them as much as we can. Although the fire assault is gonna suck. So what I do, try and zigzag with this to minimize the damage. And keep an eye for when the scanner pulse gets expired too. Dang it, the mark just expired too, so that was pretty bad timing there. Alright. Let's see about diving these, because yeah, bombers are going to do damage and they have seeker missiles, keep that in mind too. And the flagship is over here, so keep that in mind. Sadly, the frigate died immediately. So hopefully, this could do what's necessary, because I am going to rely on Krakens quite a bit here. Alright, Kraken, do your thing. Clamp on. Do what's necessary, hopefully. And try... Oh, okay, we have rush available. Good, I was wondering why I couldn't rush with that.
The enemy has accumulated 25%.
It is their A3 armor, so keep that in mind. And my Kraken's being really weird with its ramming attempts right now. But we are killing the Sauce right now. Sadly, this thing's about to die. And secret missiles are still a thing. Can this do the damage necessary? Because its AI is not cooperating right now. Which is really important right now. And I do have shields which will mitigate. Come on. Kill off the flagship. You need to kill the flagship right now. Mutinies are good. Keep in mind, this has no massive claws, so this is dangerous having it get rammed. And did it lose its massive claws? Yes, it did, so I'm hurting myself with this ramming. Come on, flagships. I hope you can conceal yourself. That would be nice. Another ship gone, and I thankfully still have the health. Come on, get in that gas cloud. It's really important to have you alive right now. And this thing is not long for this world, but at least my opponent's scared to death right now. That is really that is my saving grace right now. Because this thing is dead if it gets a ramming attempt in. Or if it gets rammed, rather.
The enemy has accumulated
And the shields are
50%
causing
strategic
some
points.
morale damage as well. Yes, kill the crew. Somehow, miraculously, this is going to be a victory. There are still frigates, so let's not get too complacent, but... And actually, yeah, this thing's going to be terrible at ramming, so you know what? Get the Krakens to do it. Get the Krakens to do it. Since my flagship's still alive and morale is not going to break. Although, please melee for me. Yeah, even though I give it a move order, because the other Kraken's there, it's not going to do it. Never mind the fact that I'm not doing the priority for melee. Which, in all honesty, that only doesn't come into effect until I lose the massive claws. Then it'll stop trying to ram. Which honestly is a good thing, depending on the circumstances. Because after all, my flagship could have just died there, kind of like what happened last episode. Because my massive claws got destroyed as I was ramming a battleship. So you can imagine how much damage I was taking. Less experienced opponent, or at least not a max level type of fleet anyway, so... I may have gotten lucky there in that exchange. But those light cruisers did not last long. I won that almost exclusively on my Devourers finally gaining range, with a good couple spore fields that actually helped at hindering their mobility quite a bit. I feel like I got lucky there. Okay, so Tyranid mirror match. What an interesting way to end off, although it's a question what fleet America is even utilizing. Since again, I want to argue I should be okay, so long as the shields are up. Once the fire assaults start kicking in, that might change, since my Krakens suddenly have a lot less value here in this type of matchup. Never mind the spore field. So hopefully I can remember to use this jewel can properly. I've been doing abysmally with it. Wrecking Ball could be good too, but even with it auto-locking onto a target, it still is prone to missing. And the spike, I think, is... I have to be worried about hitting myself. I think is the problem there. Now, with that said... Well, it sounds like we got Pyre Acid. So that's a good tell there. I want the regeneration. Do I need Chemionic Skin? Because I also want to... I think I forego the Chemionic Skin here in this case. Since my Krakens are not going to be very valuable, but I want to argue at least. I just don't know how to best utilize them in this circumstance, because I think just their raw damage is going to be the best case for me. If I am fortunate enough. Now, how do I want to position myself? Well, again, I probably don't want to burn my rush carelessly. Especially now that I no longer can slow my adversary as much as I would like. In fact, it's actually impossible to slow him down because Tyranids don't have engine components. So let's keep that in mind, and actually I'll have the drone stay over on the left. And let's see, do silent rushes, that's going to be a big scare right there. Since if our opponent is rushing carelessly, I'm not going to hear it. Which does make me want to try and abuse that just because it's very likely my opponent's doing that. Rushing ahead forward. Although we'll take our time, I at least can get some kind of gauge here on where they're at. Also, watching for fighters will help as well in this exchange. Otherwise, we just played a waiting game. In fact, I may just go full on into the waiting game. Maybe I just hang behind this objective for the time being. If I were to be serious. And see if my Krakens can spot anything. So that's a frigate there. If I can at least get a read on where they're at, that helps a lot.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
Well, there's a good read on where they're at. So that's a start. Let's get everything over in that direction, shall we? Since so long as I have two objectives, I don't have to worry about feeling pressured to engage them. Although they're going to get them a lot quicker, so it's not like I can win through the objective game. At least for now. We got another frigate there. We'll spot them relatively soon. And again, silent rushes, I don't think... I almost want to say my opponent's been rushing there, and they boosted right through as well, I feel like. I want to wait till the last second.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
So let's see. Pyre Acid. I kind of already knew that, let's be fair.
You have seized a strategic area.
Although now we're out of range and we know where a handful of these ships are. How do we engage this? Because there should still be, what, 2 hive ships around somewhere? If I were to be honest. And I don't have Chemionic Skin, that's important too. Yep, and my opponent's boosting carelessly. Which we got visual confirmation that that's been going on here. Let's prepare for our trap, somehow to trap them. Easier said than done, I guess. And I just want to avoid getting spotted, ideally, for the time being. And if possible, see if I can spot anything. The hive ships, ideally. That would be great.
You have seized a strategic area.
Alright, so a couple frigates there. Actually, let me just get this frigate going in a different direction, because I am kind of tipping my hand a tiny bit doing this. And you, drone, can just kind of get in the way, since I don't really care too much about the third objective. Alright, so we see where the hive ship is. That's convenient.
The enemy has seized a
Now we just gotta
strategic
engage
area.
it as efficiently as possible. Although that's going to be a hard part, isn't it? Trying to be efficient here. Alright. I don't have rushes available, but... Huh, Strangle Tentacles, interesting. So you're just boring my fleet, are you? Although that was a sad ram attempt there, because I did full damage to myself. So ram it, murder this thing, because the flagship of course is key to this entire operation. As we kind of learned myself. And there. That is good value right there on this dang dual cannon. Although if I'm flattered by my opponent using the Strangle Tentacles, but that's not true because we see a bunch of Pyras as well. That is a bit of a stomp. And it's why I need to engage them so efficiently too. Because those fire assaults would melt me apart really damn quickly. But doesn't it feel great when a plan comes together? Even if it was a little bit awkward. And I do really like the potential of the Massive Claws. It's just how to best deal with the sheer amount of detection that's possible against most of my opponents. And thankfully they didn't really reveal my cruisers at all until I was ready to commit, and then I was kind of forced to just fight them